Needing long-term care services, needing assistance, whether that's assisted living, nursing home, home care, something like that, it's a very, very complicated thing to plan for in your financial life. Huge risk, but very difficult to plan for. I'll tell you why coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. So we all live with this risk. We want to kind of deny it or ignore it, but I'm saying we've all had a family member that's dealt with a nursing home or needing some sort of care. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I said we probably all know someone. Now I'm saying we've all had a family member. It just seems more and more people are dealing with needing assisted living, needing a nursing home. I've had my grandmother that's needed it. She's long since passed. My father-in-law spent 7 years in a state of Alzheimer's and passed away in a nursing home last year. And we've all dealt with this. It's just a tragic, awful, awful scenario. And financially, so setting the emotions aside, but not ignoring them, if we just look at the finances, financially planning for such an event is excruciating as well. It is extremely challenging. Now, I'm not blindly telling you or anyone else, you need the insurance. No, I'm telling you this is a risk. Needing long-term care, needing a nursing home, needing assisted living, needing some home care. That is a financial risk that could punch a hole in your financial boat below the waterline. It has, the cost is so significant. There are several other things that just make this risk something that you just need to be proactive and planful for, as opposed to just avoiding it, denying it, or whatever, because we all live with the risk. But it is just, so even though I'm not blindly saying you need the insurance, one size fits all, this is the solution, you've got to be proactive about assessing this risk. And you need to be aware that objectively assessing this risk is difficult. Why? Well, there's three main reasons. Number one, if you're in middle school, okay, so you're in 7th grade, my daughter's going in 6th grade. Let's say you're in 7th grade and I come to you and say, all right, time to start paying for homeowners insurance. You'd say, number one, what are you talking about, nerd? You would definitely say that. But number two, you'd say, what? Why do I don't own a house. Why do I need to start paying for that insurance? I'm not going to own a house for a decade, maybe even 2 decades. Why would I start paying for the insurance? And yet, when you're looking at how to manage the risk of needing long-term care services, assisted living, home health care, I mean, obviously, if any of us ever lose our independence and need some assistance, we want to stay in our house as long as possible. But the truth is, you've got to assess that risk and make decisions decades before you might actually need to use the coverage, decades before the risk actually might happen. Now, there are times when my father-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's when he was 56 years old. I mean, I could tell you the story. I probably will in a future video. It's emotional. It's extremely emotional. It's very, very difficult, very raw. He passed away about 9 months ago, and truly, he was diagnosed at age 56. So that stuff happens. Does it happen to everyone? No, that's definitely the minority. But in order to plan, so occasionally you have a need. You need care early in life, but for most people, you'll need it in your late 70s, you'll need it in your 80s, you'll need it in your 90s, if at all. But yet you've got to make a decision decades before that as to how should you plan for it. And I think this is the number one reason why objectively planning and preparing for this risk is hard to do, because you say, gosh, that seems so unrealistic. I can't even think about that. I can't even fathom that right now. And I hope it never happens. Think about retirement, right? We save up, and I would preach to you to be saving up for retirement for decades and decades and decades. Yeah, but we're motivated to do that. We're motivated to do that because at some point we want to have freedom from our paycheck. Well, decades and decades before you need care, how motivated are you to pay an insurance company to protect yourself if you lose your freedoms? My goodness, if you lose your independence and ability to take care of yourself, that's not very motivating. You have to decide decades in advance. That's the primary reason why this risk is difficult to plan for. The second reason this risk is difficult to plan for, or so difficult to plan for, is inflation. On the day-to-day, and this is hard to even bring this up right now with housing prices now at their highest level and have risen at the highest level and maybe ever, and inflation at its highest level in over 30 years, and used car prices at their highest level. So all sorts of things are at all-time highs. So we're starting to actually feel and see inflation for the first time in a long time. However, outside of this unique time period right now where trillions of dollars have been printed, normally inflation is like a silent killer. It's the carbon monoxide, it's the lethal gas. You don't really see it, but you're breathing it, it's impacting you, and it's very, very dangerous to your finances. That's what inflation is. And again, because you're not going to need this insurance, or let me say it differently, because the likelihood of you needing long-term care services is still decades away when you need to make the decision, it's hard to really wrap your mind around how inflation can boost that cost, can increase the cost and the need. And I'll tell you why. One of the reasons why this is so prevalent is one of the ways that you can solve for long-term care and this risk is to buy a life insurance policy that also covers you if you need long-term care services. This is a hybrid life insurance long-term care policy, and it solves the riddle of, okay, well, I do want to protect against this risk that I might need care, and financially it's extremely expensive. So let's get a life insurance policy in place, so then if I need care, I can use the death benefit for my care. But if I don't need care, I've paid all this premium, and at least my family will get something. They'll get the life insurance benefit. Here's the major problem. Now, I like these policies. They work. They're effective in the right situation if your financial plan is suitable for this, if it's appropriate. However, there's no inflation protection on this. When you buy a life insurance policy for $200,000, 30 years from now, it's still only $200,000. And yet, because of inflation, $200,000 doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. And when you look at the cost of this care, the cost of home health care, assisted living, nursing home, the cost of providing those services has increased significantly higher than average inflation. Significantly higher. So this is the second reason why this is a difficult financial risk to plan for, because inflation, we underestimate the ability or the magnitude or the damage that inflation will do when you're looking at long-term care. I would have told you, I can just remember it. Now you can see I'm old, but I'm not old, right? I've been doing this for 20 years. But I'm still relatively young. I can remember saying, it costs about $4,000 a month for a nursing home. Guys, right now, it's about $9,000 a month for a nursing home. That is outrageous. That is just outrageous. The cost of these services has increased significantly higher than the average inflation. And when you compound that over decades, this is a financial risk that can punch a hole in your financial boat below the waterline. This is such a significant financial risk that it poses such a great threat, and one of the reasons is inflation. And then the final reason, if I'm just going to narrow it to three, final reason why this risk of assessing financially the risk of needing long-term care services and how you should plan for that financially, the third reason, or the third most difficult reason, or the reason why this is such a difficult risk to plan for, is because of the unknowns. Now, with insurance, when we transfer risk, it is because of the unknown. Okay, this sort of thing could happen to me. The likelihood that it will happen is low, but the financial severity, if it does happen, is great. Those are the risks you want to transfer. It's not likely to happen, but if it does, it's very significant. Take the opposite of that. This is why I never buy warranties, okay? And feel free to leave a comment below if you disagree with me. But a warranty is typically for something where the risk of it happening, the VCR breaking, probably going to happen, okay? But the financial magnitude is really low. Like it's probably going to happen. The VCR is like, well, number one, it's going to go obsolete, but the Blu-ray player going to go obsolete. But the risk of it, yeah, will it break? Yeah, probably. And financially, okay, I'll spend the 50. I didn't want to spend the $50 to replace it, but I guess I will. So I never buy warranties on those, retail type products. But something where the chance of it happening is low, but the financial severity, if it does happen, is high. Those are the risks you want to transfer. And so that, long-term care services, that fits the mold exactly. However, because it's a risk and it's an unknown, that people just have a hard time saying, yeah, I think that could happen to me. I remember having a conversation with my father-in-law, and he brought it up. It was talking about his parents and his father and needing nursing home and all that sort of stuff, and said, his mom was the caretaker for his dad for decades as he struggled with an illness. And so he told me once, yeah, if that ever happens to me, just, take me out back, blah, 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 saying the macho thing. Because we are all sort of in denial. It's the unknown. And so often there's some sort of trade-off to transfer the risk. There's a cost to buy the insurance, or there's an adjustment to your financial life to plan for this risk. And because the risk is an unknown, well, it might not happen. It's hard for people to say, I'm willing to take some steps, I'm willing to sacrifice to protect against this risk. So what do you do? Those are the three, in my opinion, the three most difficult reasons it is to plan for long-term care risk. I'm bringing this up, I'm mentioning this so that you still have this conversation. When should you have this conversation? We've got a Wise Money show coming up about that very topic, but when it's time for you, talk to your spouse. Talk to your kids if you need to. If you're planning on one of them being part of the solution, talk to your certified financial planner. Maybe planning for this risk doesn't need to involve insurance for you. Maybe maybe you're self-insured. Maybe you don't need to transfer the risk at all. Have the tough conversation. This isn't a transaction. This isn't someone's trying to sell you something. No, you're a certified financial planner that's doing comprehensive financial planning, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life. They're your fiduciary. They're there to objectify these sorts of decisions and say, all right, if this happens, if this risk occurs and you are one of the 25% of folks that need care, here's how it would impact your financial life and help you determine whether you need to transfer the risk or not and what your options are. So that's what you need to be working on. If you have a certified financial planner in your life, work with them on that. If you don't, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.